Welcome all. A very good morning to the first session of this online conversation. I'm Assistant Professor Pratishtha Dewan from the Department of Sociology and from Siliguri Campus Salesian College, Autonomous. So to begin our conversation today's conversation is on the topic gender roles. Now, looking into the topic, the two words gender roles might be quite familiar for all of us, but it is quite essential for the current generation, the current individual who are part of the society to understand the true essence, the true meaning, and the critical themes that are attached with these two concepts. So before I begin, let me just break down these two concepts for you all. Gender. What is gender for us? There is a huge lot of debate going or circling around this entire topic called gender. To put it forth to our audience today, let me just give you a very simple clarity about this topic. Gender, for most of us, and even in academia, the current, or let's say the most accepted form of understanding of gender revolves around the societal construction, the society. Whereas on the other hand, the term sex is completely different from what gender is understood as. Sex, in simple terms, is a biological construct. Whereas on the other hand, like I said previously, gender is a social construct. In comparing with the two, biological construction or meaning of sex can be simple for us to understand. But the reality attached with trying to understand gender as a social construction has far more implication, is far more complex in its orientation. So, in simple words again, gender is to be understood, associated with society. Society for all of us can be a very complex entity, can be understood in various paradigms. But as the topic for today is gender role, so I'll just limit my understanding when it comes to gender divided into two compartments: a man, a woman, a boy, a girl. So these are all coming up through societal construction. Whereas the other term that's been associated with gender is role. What is role for us? Role, in simple words, can be defined as the function. It can also be understood in the form or in relationship with status, the position that an individual occupies, and having occupied that position, the duties, responsibilities, or in simple words, the functions are associated with it. So when you combine these two words, gender and role, they are to be understood not in complete disassociation with one another, but in complete association with one another. So, the second half of this conversation, gender roles. Gender roles is, when we divide these two concepts in terms of man and a woman, let's talk about their roles. What is the purpose of a man? What is the function of a man? A man is again attached with stereotypical notions such as being too masculine, powerful, the breadwinner, whereas a woman, as another part of the gender, the roles associated with her is much to do with the feminine aspect, the household, someone who looks into the household affairs, someone who's empathetic, sympathetic. So even the attributes, personality attributes, when it comes to one's potential credentials, every part of who we really are, our attributes, are divided based upon the gender. That gender is again divided on one's based upon masculinity or based upon femininity as well. But these are terms that we frequently hear about, we read about in the text. So the purpose of this entire video is not to make you, provide you with too bookish knowledge as such. That is not the purpose. The main purpose is let us critically evaluate these roles, these very concepts. Let me give you an instance about gender role The particular concept revolving in current scenario, an instance. The character Durga from the movie Mrs. Undercover. This particular character itself is an epitome of fearlessness, discovering who she really is in the society apart from a traditional role. Durga, she happens to share an identity which has not yet been disclosed to the society, an identity of being an agent, which she fondly aspires to become, but that particular identity has been submerged for a pretty long time. So she's assigned with a particular task of covering the heinous crime committed against the women by a serial killer. So, in this process, it is just not about fulfilling one's duty as an agent. It is just not about skill, but this movie entirely gives us a narrative that's been submerged underneath the character of Durga, burdened by the traditional norms. She discovers in the process of fulfilling the duty of an agent that being a woman, on one hand, in general terms, and being a housewife, she was undervaluing her true essence, her true potential. But when she takes up the character of an agent, it reminds her that being a woman and also being a housewife should not or cannot undermine her true potential. It also talks about the negative dialogue that a society burdens women with. You being a housewife bears no understanding, bears no relevance in the society. But the very notion of housewife in today's generation, if I compare it, has been evolving. There's a huge question. Being a housewife, women taking the role of a housewife as part of their traditional gender role, is it to be undermined? Does it have a relevance? This is a huge critical question that the audience needs to think about. There are various parameters, not parameters exactly, but I would say there are various variables that has been affecting the concept of gender roles in today's. Durga, the character of Durga through this movie, is just one mere example. Not all of us can become an agent in true sense, but we are definitely agent in our personal spaces. Apart from the gender that we understand in general terms, man and a woman, boy and a girl, there are other genders as well. Let us not go there currently. But this entire conversation is all about critically evaluating the roles. Do roles truly define us? Do roles change? Is it important to change? Which I truly say that yes. In today's time, things are changing at a rapid pace. But when it comes to gender roles, when it comes to the issue of gender, it has a paramount effect. Let us take one example again. Currently, the community that I live in, I hail from a Nepali community. I've seen the two genders switching roles. A current example would be men taking the responsibility of the household chores, upbringing of the kids, whereas women going abroad, being the primary breadwinners. Do we see this exchange of roles as an ideal concept? Do we or are we accepting this change in the gender roles as a positive change or a negative change? It also entirely depends upon the societal construction that we are living in currently. We cannot undermine the traditions that we are born and brought up. But let me tell you, traditions, culture, these can be biased as well. So I would like to end my conversation here, but the conversation does not end here entirely. I shall meet you again with the second episode on the societal issues from the Department of Sociology. Thank you.